Just to settle. All right, so we'll just settle ourselves in our meditation position. All right, and just take a few moments to bring your awareness to where your body is in the space that you are in. So let's take a moment just to be aware of the contact of our thighs on the chair we're sitting on or the cushion we're sitting on. You can check in with your posture, making sure that your spine is straight. You can put your right hand over your left with your thumbs touching. That helps the flow of energy in the body, and just rest your hands in your lap in a relaxed manner. If it helps, you can tuck your chin in very slightly so your neck and spine are aligned. And rest your tongue against your upper palate, where you'd put it if you said the word mind. And if you tend to get drowsy, it can be helpful to keep your eyes very slightly open, not looking at anything specific, but just to let some light in. And that can help to brighten the mind. And to help to bring our awareness to our body, I will lead a brief, what we call a body scan. So begin by bringing your attention to your feet, releasing any tension you might find there. Relax your ankles. Relax your lower legs. Relax your knees. Relax your thighs. Relax into your sit bones. Relax your lower back. Let your belly go soft. Relax your upper back. Relax your chest. Relax your arms. Relax your neck. Relax your facial muscles. Relax the top of your head. And sitting in this firm and relaxed position will now generate our motivation for this session. So today being Mother's Day, let's begin by taking a moment to reflect on what we can be grateful to our mother for. Just the fact that we have this body, this life, is immediately due to our mother and of course our father. But think of all the difficulty and suffering that our mother went through when we were growing in her womb, all the care that she took just to bring us into the world. And if she didn't get up in the middle of the night to take care of us, to respond to our cries, to feed us, we wouldn't have survived in the first few days and months of our lives. And so, of course, if we take time to reflect like this, we can find countless examples of the kindness of our mother. And then from a Buddhist perspective, we reflect too that every single being has been kind to us just like our mother. Because we have had beginningless past lives, and by logical extension, we've had a mother in every past life. And so in every lifetime, someone has been just so kind to us, even if we don't recognize them now directly. So today on Mother's Day, we can hold in mind this gratitude we have for our mother of this life, mothers of past lives, and really seek to do whatever we can to repay their kindness. And one way we can do that is by working on ourselves, transforming our minds, cultivating our good qualities, learning how to free ourselves from suffering and generate the causes for true happiness. Because by doing so, then we will be able to genuinely be of service and to help all our kind mothers by helping them to be free of suffering and to cultivate the highest happiness. So trying to keep in mind an expansive motivation in this way, let's now bring to mind all the good qualities we'd love to continue to develop, that we wish, were just spontaneous and effortless in our minds. Like, what might it be like to have effortless love, compassion, joy, equanimity, skillful means that simply knows the best way to benefit every single being? And we can imagine that such a mind that's imbued with only good qualities, completely free of anger, attachment, ignorance, such a mind now manifests in the physical form of Shakyamuni Buddha in the space in front of us, his body made of brilliant light. The Buddha is seated on a beautiful lotus with sun and moon as cushions. The Buddha is wearing a monastic's 3 robes, right hand resting on his right knee, left hand in his lap holding an alms bowl filled with nectar. And below the lotus there is a throne supported by lions. So if this visualization is not familiar to you, just feel that you are in the presence of a being that embodies love, compassion, wisdom, kindness. And knowing that such a being has the ability to teach us to awaken those qualities in ourselves, and likewise to do so for others, we can bring to mind all our mother sentient beings, all surrounding us. You can, if you like, you can imagine your father of this life to your right, your mother to your left, friends, family all around you, strangers extending into infinite space. People who you think are very difficult, you can put right in front of you, all turning to an awakened teacher for guidance. And so with that visualization in mind, we will recite the Refuge and Bodhicitta prayer, which I'm going to share on screen. So just holding that visualization in mind, we lead all beings in taking refuge. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. And now as we recite the 4 immeasurables, we can really wish all these for all the beings that we're visualizing around us. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings not be separated from sorrowless bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment, and anger. And here we'll pause for a moment. Just come back and turn your mind inward. And we'll pause here to do some stabilizing meditation, as I mentioned. So here you can focus on the image of the Buddha in the space in front of you, if that's a familiar object. Or you can come back to your breath. So here just pay attention to the rise and fall of your belly as you breathe, or the in and out sensation of air at your nostrils. And anytime your mind wanders away, just bring it back very gently to rest on that object. So we'll do that for about 5 minutes. So now that we've spent a bit of time calming and settling the mind, we're not just going to rest in a sense of calm and peace for ourselves, but we're going to use our focus to investigate what the Buddha taught by applying it to our personal experience. And so today we'll do this meditation that the Buddha taught on the nature of this body. It seems so familiar. It's what we have with us all the time. But the Buddha encouraged us to look at each of its parts and to check up. What is the nature of each of the parts of the body? And when you look at all these parts of the body, can you find some kind of unifying self that's holding it all together or controlling it? So that's something to keep in mind as I list these different parts of the body. Okay, so we'll do these in sections and have some time to reflect on each set of parts. So as I say the part of the body, you can bring it to mind in your consciousness, visualize it, and check up. How does it exist? Is it permanent? Is it impermanent? Is it beautiful? Or is it unattractive? Or, how does your mind perceive it? So we begin by just having a look at some of the parts of our external appearance. So bring to mind the hair on your head. The hair that's on your body. The eyebrows, the hair in your nostrils, under the arms, all over the body. Bring to mind the nails, the teeth, and the skin. And next we imagine peeling away our skin. And below that there's muscles, tendons that connect our muscles to the bones. And going a level deeper in the bones, there's marrow. And as we turn to our internal organs, bring to mind the kidneys. And now bring to mind the other organs that are constantly working that we are not even aware of. Our heart, the liver, connective tissue, the spleen, the lungs. And next, bring to mind your intestines, the mesentery, gorge, all the food in the stomach that's being digested right now. Feces, and the brain. And now bring to mind all the different fluids that the body produces, like bile, phlegm, pus, blood, sweat, and fat. And now bring to mind tears, grease, all the spit in our mouths, snot that comes out of our nose, oil between our joints, and urine. So when you take the time to just look at the parts of the body in this way, does it change the way you perceive your body? How is it different when you put your attention on each of these parts and look at how they exist? So just take a moment to reflect on any insights that this might have brought about the nature of this body and how you relate to it. So you can bring your attention back to the room that you're in and gently open your eyes when you're ready. And today I'd like to invite some participation. And so I'm quite curious what this meditation brought up for people. What conclusions did you come to, or what came up for you as we were going through the parts of the body? And there's totally no wrong answer, so I'm genuinely asking this question and would like to hear your experience, so anyone can jump in and share. Anyone doing this for the first time? Was it very weird? Okay, Jan, would you like to just share what came up for you?
Uh, well, we so since at the start we did like hair, nails, things that like grow and then we cut and it grows again. I thought a lot about the fact that a lot of the body just it dies and it's replaced and then it dies again and it's replaced. So that I think that's something that came up a lot in the meditation. And I also thought the fact that what we replace it with is the same things that we eat.
Mm.
So we're food. Yeah, the body is food.
Thank you. Yeah, so that totally links to what we were talking about last week, right? When we do the mindfulness of the body, it's a powerful meditation on impermanence, right? It helps us to start to see the impermanent nature of the body. Like you said, yeah, there are things that we cut and they grow again, And one thing that always fascinates me, it's like, okay, I see these are my nails, and then I cut them and they're in the bin. Is that me that just went into the bin? So, I care a lot about them when they're here, right? And then you cut them and it's like, oh, whatever, just throw them away. It's like, what's going on there? Yeah, it becomes very interesting. Yeah, and then like you said, we replace it with food. This is part of the meditation that we do on like the causes of the body as well. My teacher, Venerable Chodron, often says, when we think what are the causes of the body, it's a lot of food. Yeah, like all this food that we eat, right? And especially in retreat, it's like it's very quiet. Every day you're eating, and it's like when the food's on the plate, it's food. But when I eat it, it becomes me. Right? Does the food become my body? Right? If I ate the food on your plate, am I eating you? Like what's going on there? Yeah. So, these are just, it just helps us to see things in a different kind of way, right? Things that we often take for granted or think are so mundane, right? To look at their nature. It's like, what am I calling this body that I say is mine, my body? Yeah. Yeah, so that's how the reflection on impermanence takes us even deeper into starting to question, like, how do things appear to me and how do they actually exist? Yeah. So great. Thank you. Louise, go ahead.
When I was in college, I had to take comparative physiology, and so dissecting different animals and things. And when you're going over the mesenteries and intestines, oh, and then I worked in a hospital with patients for respiratory. So I'm thinking, going back to dissecting the animals and where am I? Where is the animal? Where is that mind in that? You know what I mean? Like, where is that being? So, and then applying that to me, because I know what the insides of that, and I'm the same as that. And where is the me? So that brought that up. That was pretty powerful. I forgot all about that. You know, this is where am I in all these different parts? You know, so
Thank you.
that's sure.
Yeah, so yeah, this
That was
meditation
cool.
helps to shake up our attachment to this idea of a very
Oh,
solid self, right, that we can find somewhere. But we also use it to shake up our attachment to other people. Yeah, one way we apply it as a monastic, it's like, okay, I think I'm in love, well, if you want to, right? Someone you're so in love with, you think they're so good looking, they're perfect. And then it's like, head hair. If you just look at their hair alone, if the hair, you think their hair is so beautiful, but if their hair was in your plate of food, you're like, ew, right? But what happened there? You're like, oh, I want to run my hands through your hair. It's like, really? What if it was just their hair sitting on a table? Like, no, right? And then you look at their body hair. It's like, this gets kind of gross. I don't know. It's like, okay, right? And then, so I'm not going to ruin your love life, okay? But this is one thing we do as monastics. It's like, you peel
there's
off that
none.
person's, oh, but you look at their teeth. Just their teeth. If you put just their teeth on the table, would you be like, I'm so in love with your teeth? Right? So it gets you the question, like when you're so-called in love with someone, what is coming from that person's side and what is actually coming from your mind? Yeah, that's
Oh
putting
yeah.
it
Oh,
all together and saying that's this beautiful, handsome person
yeah.
or good-looking person. If you peel it, if you peel their skin off, what's behind that? Muscles, tendons, bones, right? If you're
Yeah.
so in love
Fat
with this,
connective tissue,
sorry,
blood, blood, lymph, connective
blood,
tissue, all yeah,
like, is that
nerves.
really what I want to hug and go to bed with? I want to hold your liver forever. So, it doesn't mean that
That's
we
helpful
don't have
for my next crush.
relationships, right? You're people, right? Yeah, it helps to just calm down that projection and attachment, right? That's like, I can't live without you. You're perfect. It's like, you know what? This person has a body that has parts. And at some point, those parts are not going to work so well anymore. And you got to take
Yeah,
care of
that
this.
age was the other thing. Yes, that also came up. How has this changed? You know? But
Yeah,
yeah.
the change with age, right? Other people, anything come up for you there? No? Or some
Maybe
people are
I
like,
share.
oh, yes, go ahead, Louise.
Yeah, maybe I share something. I think my teacher has told me the same thing that okay, if you are in love with that person, try to cut some of his hair and then put it on your bowl of rice and see what will happen. Will you still love the person? Yeah. Then I start to contemplate. So is it the experience that we are actually attached to rather than the person itself? No, I don't know. I'm just asking you.
Yeah, we can go on to discuss that. Yeah, it's not Q&A time yet.
Yeah,
I just
it's actually the experience, right? Because we keep on thinking about the good time that we spend together. Yeah, so it's not the person, but it's the experience.
yeah, okay, so that's one conclusion you're coming to. Yeah, and then the question is then what does that do for your practice, right? Like, if you realize, oh, I don't actually know this person. I'm attached to the experience that they give me, the good feelings they give me. And what happens when they don't give me those good feelings, right? It's like, go away. I don't want to be around you. You don't give me good feelings anymore. Then is that actually love? Right. So that's one way we can take it. Yeah. So I think the answer might be a bit different for everyone. But yeah, so so this is a meditation you can employ in many ways to reduce your attachment to your own body. Did that come up for anyone? Did like disgust or fear come up? Or, did it make you look at your body in a different way? Yes, for Jia, go ahead.
Yes. Uh, a little in terms of like imagining like the fluids and uh, all the organs that like move like the heart or your intestines. It felt like that movement like uh, the experience of like imagining that movement like happening inside the body and it's not like that.
Yeah, so again, so you can apply it to others' bodies, your own body. But here, I just brought that up as a caution. There's actually a story from the Buddha's time where there were monastics very seriously meditating on this, and it's called a meditation on the foulness of the body. And then they had this very strong view that, like, oh, this body is disgusting. And then they wanted people to kill them, right? Thinking, oh, if I get rid of this body, then I will be liberated. So that's totally a wrong view, right? So I just want to say that's going to an extreme that actually isn't realistic, right? So it's more like to help you see, how do I relate to this body in a balanced way, right? So I don't know about you, but when I was a layperson, I spent a lot of time on my hair, getting up early to style it, right? To make it curly at the bottom, so much money at the hairdresser. It's just like you said, you cut it and it's gone, right? Or all the money you spend on your skin, right, to make it look good. You get a few wrinkles. It's like, I have wrinkles. No, have to buy anti-aging cream. All the time you spend maybe on makeup or whatever it is. But when you look at the truth of it, if you peeled that skin away, right, it's like, is that skin me? All these parts, they're impermanent, they're changing. Do I really need to put all my life energy into looking a certain way or treating the body a certain way or pampering it? Or is it just good enough if it's healthy? So that's one of the conclusions this meditation can lead to, right? Just having a realistic attitude toward the body. Yeah. Or also for people who put themselves down, right? Like, oh, I'm so ugly, or, I don't have the right kind of hair. I don't have the right kind of, when you apply this, it's like, look, everybody's body is the same in terms of having all these parts. Yeah. It's interesting. One thing that really came up for me this time, this is the first time I'm leading this with a group, Often I've been led in this meditation or I've done it myself. But as I'm leading this and I find myself using like pronouns like our, I realize, oh, right, all of us have the same kind of body as humans. We all have a heart that's beating. It just made that much deeper for me, because one aspect of this meditation too is not just to reflect on your own parts, but you can extend it to reflect, like I said, on the parts of another person that you're attached to, or just the parts of others around you. To reflect, oh yeah, they all have beating hearts. They all have livers. We are all the same in this way. And we all have these bodies that are impermanent, changing moment to moment. And somehow I felt like, it helps me to generate compassion. Yeah, like, I don't know what's going on in your body. You might not be feeling well, right? So yeah, so much is going on, all these processes, and I don't know who you are really. And yeah, whatever judgments I make based on your appearance, they're not true, most likely. Yeah. So that was something that came up for me personally. Yeah, so great. I'm glad nobody fell to the extreme of like feeling extreme disgust or hating your body or whatever. Yeah, it's important to keep that balanced view. So I hope just this little exercise and the sharing from everyone gives you a sense of how you can use this meditation. Whether if you have a formal meditation practice, just to go through that list, I will send the slides through. Bring that list to mind, one set at a time, pause, reflect. Yeah, and yeah, see how that affects how you relate to your body and others' bodies. But knowing that, this is the conclusion you're moving toward, having a realistic and balanced view. Okay, so I'll just come back to my slides before we go further with today's talk. Yeah, so here it is, the list. I will make sure this gets out to everyone. This is from the Pali Canon. I think some other sutras might have a different set. Yeah, but here it's basically to focus on each part of the body and just check up. Yeah, what is its nature? Is there a self there? And why I think this meditation can be very powerful too, for me as someone who spent a lot of time visualizing the Buddha, as I described to you at the beginning, right? That's a very big part of the meditation in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, where we actually use an image of the Buddha as like the main object of like concentration meditation. Is we receive teachings too on the parts of a Buddha's body. And the idea here is that an enlightened being's body is created by marvelous causes, right? They create a lot of merit, they create a lot of virtue, and that manifests in this inspiring form that can benefit others. So I haven't really heard this so much in the traditional teachings, but one quote that inspired me a lot from a text called the Vimalakirti Sutra. It's very popular in the Chinese tradition. Yeah, I'm not sure if people in this group have studied it, but I know some of you study in the Chinese tradition. That's why I wanted to bring it up. So there's this conversation here, and Vimalakirti is sick, and I think he's talking to other bodhisattvas, and he tells them the body is impermanent, without strength, without power, without solidity. Given the way it rapidly disintegrates, it cannot be trusted. It is alternately suffering and vexatious. It accumulates a host of illnesses. Sirs, the wise do not rely on such a body. Right? And then he goes on, to talk about kind of the nature of the body in this way, right? What you brought up already. It ages, it gets sick. We put all this effort into taking care of it, and it betrays us at the time of death, right? And his conclusion is, sirs, this body being so calamitous and repugnant, you should wish for the body of the Buddha. And that just made me think, oh wow, yeah, so just the idea that if I create the causes, I can have a very different kind of body. I can create the causes for a body that can emanate other bodies made of light. Yeah. I mean, this might sound like total science fiction too, right? But it is what is said is possible in the Mahayana Sutras, especially, right? That as you practice, you create causes, you have a very different kind of collection of qualities that can manifest mentally and physically in a very different way. So this was one thing that, just connecting, like we meditate on 32 parts of our ordinary body, right, to recognize its impermanent, selfless, and suffering, dukkha, in its nature. And then we also reflect on 32 parts of a Buddha's awakened body and all the causes for it. Yeah, so for me, it was like, there's a point of connection, and to find that in the sutras was very interesting to me. Yeah, it's a way to connect like mindfulness of our own body with mindfulness of the Buddha. Yeah, so I'm not sure if that's useful or helpful, but I found that quite inspiring in my own practice. Okay, so today I want to go on to talking about mindfulness of feelings. And again, we'll make sure there's a little bit of time for discussion and so on. Oh yeah, so before we jump into that, this is a good lead in. There was some homework last week, which is to pay attention to the thoughts in your mind when you first wake up, and to just see how do they affect your actions first thing in the morning. How does this affect the rest of your day? Yeah, so did anybody do this homework and would like to share? I feel like I should pick on my own mother. No, my mom's like, no, oh my God, no. All right, it's Mother's Day. I'll give you a break. Oh, that's mom. Okay, she's gonna respond. Mommy, we can't hear you. Do you want to unmute? Something's
I
wrong with
think
the sound on.
there's two
Yeah,
two device, right? So
the
the
two
other device
devices.
has to turn
Okay.
off.
Yeah. Okay. Anyhow, other folks, did anybody pay attention to the thoughts in your mind in the morning when you first get up and how they affect your day? Yes, Sharon, please.
Hi, morning, Venerable. Yeah, the first thing I realized, I started thinking what I had to achieve today and even for the week. Yeah.
Mm.
So I started planning what needs to be done, what was urgent. And then the mind starts to be like quite busy. And then I'll start to check for messages already on the handphone.
And you're still lying in bed.
Yes.
Wow. So how does that make you feel? Does that affect your day?
Yes, because I found that at certain point I'll be impatient throughout the day because you know that there are things you need to achieve, and when others are not doing the same as what you did, I became a bit impatient.
Mm. Right. So from the start of the day, there's a set of expectations, right, about what you need to do, what others should do. And then when they don't get fulfilled, then that affects your whole day, right? Like it's not going to according
Yeah.
to plan.
Yes, correct. We are wasting time, we should hurry. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That's helpful.
Thank you.
Did other people wake up in the same way? Like I have a plan and it's got to be executed. Yeah, Louise, yes. Other people know you're like retired, you wake up, you're like, oh yeah, I could do whatever I want. Is that the
I'm
case?
not retired. I'm still working.
Okay, so
Okay,
you wake
are you referring to the other Louis? Oh, okay.
no,
Maybe I share. I think on different part of it depends on whether you have anything on that day. If you wake up because you have no appointment or anything, you can wake up with a very compassionate feeling. You want to wish everybody well, everybody good, and then everybody happy, as well as you yourself also happy. But if that day you have important appointment, I think then everything is the other way around. You just hope that you wake up, everything can be done properly and things like that.
That is so interesting. As in, what could be more important than wishing yourself and others to be well, right? But somehow it's like, okay, something else is just much more important than that. Yeah. Ah. Okay, yes, the other Louise. Yes, please.
Okay, I found that doesn't matter. It's the strength of how you wake up, because if I wake up thinking, yeah, I'm going to, thinking about, well, what virtuous Dharma things, but if my force of habit comes in, then yeah, I'll go to myself, I'll go surf the web and do it with my cup of coffee instead of sitting down and doing practice. It depends on the strength of it. If it's just like a cursory, don't pay much attention to, then it gets lost. So I can wake up properly, but it may fade too quickly. So I don't know. Do you have any suggestions for that?
Okay, so like it
Or
depends
that's,
on the kind of strength of attention you have in the morning too. Or
yeah,
like, am I mindful of the intention I have, or is it more
exactly.
I'm just gonna go on to the next thing, the next thing? Yeah, thank you for that. So that's roughly kind of what I was hoping to get people to think about through this exercise, and you don't have to stop doing it. It's not just homework for 1 week. But I think something simple like that, checking up, how do I wake up? Right, it's a moment that I don't know, I didn't used to put much thought into. Yeah, most of the time as a layperson or even in my early monastic life, my first thought is usually, oh shoot, I'm late. Because I always feel like I'm late. Like, oh no, I should have gotten up earlier. Oh no. It was so habitual, like, oh, I should have been somewhere already. And then I wake up with a lot of anxiety and stress already, like, oh, I'm already behind. Oh, I can't have breakfast. I've got to get dressed, got to do this, got to do that. And it's like, oh, do I really have to get up like that? Right? So that's a kind of a very gross mindfulness of body, feelings, mind. Yeah, just to see, okay, just that moment in the morning, the first thought I have, how does that affect how I feel physically? How do I carry that into the rest of my day? Yeah, just to see that connection, that the thoughts affect the body, they affect actions that we do. Right, starting from the very first moment in the morning. If I slow down and even just pay attention to that, then there becomes, like the two Louises said, there becomes a lot of room actually to be mindful of how we wake up. Like, yeah, if I wake up with a compassionate motivation today, how does that change my day? Right, it's that very first moment. You just have to change the way you're thinking or where you put your focus, and it can change the whole day. So I don't know, you give that a try. Maybe that's the homework for this week. Yeah. Because a really important part of the practice that we do here at the Abbey is learning to wake up with 3 motivations. And I will tell you, I've lived here 11 years. I'm still learning this practice. It's not so self-evident. The force of habit is so strong. And so what are the 3 motivations we wake up with? Now, first of all, the most important thing today, no matter what I have on my to-do list, no matter what meetings I have, the most important thing is not to harm others, not to harm myself or others with my body, speech, or mind. And here we usually include ourselves too. Yeah, may I not do anything that is harmful to myself or others with whatever actions I engage in. And it feels a bit like a tall order, yeah, but throughout the day, yeah, that is actually the most important thing. It's not to get to the 9 o'clock meeting. It's not to harm anyone. And then the second is to do my best to be of benefit as far as I can with my body, speech, and mind. Whatever circumstances I'm in throughout the day, how can I help? Yeah, and just to keep that alive. And then the third, for those of us who are Buddhists, we can come back. What is our high or spiritual practitioners really? Just what is my highest spiritual goal that I would like to keep alive throughout the day? So for us as monastics, we come back to how can I always come back to my bodhicitta motivation? How is this contributing to becoming a Buddha for the benefit of others? So we try and wake up with that. So it really took a long time for me to get from, oh shoot, I'm late, to even lie in bed like, okay, today I'm not going to harm anyone. And sometimes it's just rote. Now, I just recite it to myself. May I not harm anyone? May I be of benefit? May I come back to bodhicitta? But no matter what I feel, if I can wake up with that intention, it does have an impact on just how that day goes. Yeah, so check up and give that a try. And it doesn't have to be these 3. You can word them in your own way, something that resonates with you, that you want to wake up with. So let's see, maybe that's the homework for this week, like how can you wake up with a thought? What thought do you want to wake up with? What motivation do you want to set? And does that make a difference in your day? Just give that a try. Yeah. And then at the end of the day, then we come back to reflect on that motivation, see how we've done, pat ourselves on the back if we accomplished it, or if something needs to be shifted, we can make amends. So I see in the chat someone has commented. Tian Hui shares. Shall I read it for you? Is that okay? Yeah. Well, she says, every morning I'm so grateful for waking up. Another day at my disposal to accomplish the purpose of my existence. Wonderful. That's really beautiful. That's something we reflect on. The first thing, we try and, a lot of people here, that's what people say in the meditation hall too. Like, wow, we have another day to practice. So many beings died in the night. And often that's always very sobering. It's like, wow, I take it for granted that I wake up. Yeah, but in the last night, so many beings died. They did not get up this morning. So how am I going to use my day well? That's a great example of kind of putting it in your own words. Yeah. So I thought of this exercise too, because I think it connects with this whole process of mindfulness of feelings. Yeah, when we have certain mental conceptions, mental experiences, or physical experiences, they also affect how we behave. Yeah. Okay. So let's come back to the topic that we have at hand today. All right. And I'm just going to touch on this topic of mindfulness of feelings more specifically and how we meditate on it. So here when we talk about feelings, this is already an aspect of our consciousness. The feelings don't belong to the form aggregate, right? They're not part of the body. They are part of our consciousness, the mind. And we're not talking about feelings like emotions here. Strictly speaking, in the meditation on feelings, what we're paying attention to is what we're labeling pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. And so whether it's a tactile physical sensation, it can be a physical pleasant feeling, a physical unpleasant feeling, or a neutral neutral physical feeling. Or it can be a pleasant mental feeling, an unpleasant mental feeling, a neutral mental feeling, right? So that's the first step, just checking up, what do I consider pleasant, unpleasant, neutral? And even just in meditation, working out, when is it a physical feeling, like of the tactile consciousness? When is it a mental feeling? That can be quite challenging. I don't know, for myself, just pausing and working that out and paying attention to that. And so that's the first step of just bringing our mindfulness to our feelings, as we sit. So like right now, I'm guessing most of us have neutral feelings, right? Just sitting, how it feels to sit on the chair, right? You're not thinking too much about that. But at every moment, right, there are unpleasant feelings too. Like after you sit for too long, it gets tiresome, bothersome, and you want to move and get up, right? Or you're hearing this talk, some aspects are interesting, so maybe you have a pleasant mental feeling like, oh, this is useful to my life. Or you are hearing things that are annoying to you, then it's like, oh, this is not so pleasant, right? So every moment, all these feelings are arising that we're considering pleasant, unpleasant, or just neutral. Another way to contemplate our feelings is to look at worldly versus spiritual feelings. Yeah, so whether they have to do with immediate pleasure of this life, right? Or in terms of spiritual feelings, like they're related to our deeper values, higher principles that we care about. Yeah. So maybe let's just do we have time? We'll spend a couple of minutes just brainstorming some examples here, so there's so many permutations that we can go through, right? So what is an example of a pleasant worldly feeling? Anyone? What gives you a pleasant worldly feeling?
Eating a nice meal.
Eating a
Like
nice
a
meal.
nice warm meal.
Oh, a nice warm meal. Great. Carol, were you going to share something?
Having people compliment you.
Oh, yeah. Wonderful. You're so great. 3 words, right? You did such a good job. Okay, pleasant worldly feelings. All right. Now, what about unpleasant worldly feelings. Anyone? Kit, jump in.
Can't sleep at night.
Okay, when you can't sleep at night, right? All right, there's a lot of both, largely mental, probably. Yeah, I can't sleep, I can't sleep, I can't sleep. Very unpleasant worldly feeling. What about neutral ones? Louise, were you gonna share something? No?
About the unpleasant, yeah, noisy neighbors, but you moved on to neutral.
Oh, right. Yeah, noisy neighbors, right? Sounds that we just don't want to hear, right?
Yeah.
Unpleasant worldly feelings. All right. Neutral? Just, yeah, sweeping the floor, right? Sitting down, whatever it is, your mind just kind of spaces out. Okay. And then what about spiritual ones? Pleasant spiritual feelings? Has that come up for anyone? What's an example of that?
Feeling calm after a meditation session.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Just feeling calm. All right. A sense of inner peace. Okay. Are there unpleasant unpleasant spiritual feelings?
When you don't understand the sutra. You
Okay.
read and you don't understand.
Like, okay, I've tried my best here, but I'm not getting it. Okay. Well, it depends on the motivation, yeah. But sometimes I think, I mean, if it encourages in your practice, I think then we would consider it like an unpleasant spiritual feeling. One example that comes up is like regret for negative actions, right? You look at it and you're like, whoa, I really harmed someone and I just never want to do that again. Yeah, so you realize, "Whew, okay, that was really harmful. I just, yeah, I should stop, right? Or like, I'm harming myself, yeah? I mean, so many of us, I'm sure, have had that. You're addicted to something and you realize, whoo, this is ruining my life. I've just got to care for myself better and stop, right? So those are unpleasant spiritual feelings, but we consider them spiritual feelings because they actually help us to improve, even though they're unpleasant. And what a neutral spiritual feelings? Yeah, so I'm guessing, maybe we do our practice and it's like you just do it every day, or yeah, you don't have a particular feeling about it. It's just another meditation session, you go through it. Okay. All right. Yeah, all right. So those are some possibilities, I think. But so it's just useful. These are just rubrics to help us kind of check up, yeah, what is happening in our mind there? How are we relating to this feeling? Are we labeling it pleasant, unpleasant, neutral? Is it worldly? Is it spiritual? Right. So that's just like the awareness aspect of it. And then we go further. Let me call this up. And we start looking at how the feelings arise and pass away. And that actually gets a bit more difficult, because what is our kind of reflex response when these feelings arise? When there's a pleasant feeling, I want more, right? It's so easy to get caught up. It's like, oh, that great meal. Oh, they said those nice things to me, and you're off. Like, oh, how can I get another meal like that? How do I make this feeling last? What did I do to get that compliment? Can I get it again? Are they going to say it again? Right. Yeah. So here, yeah. And then the same for the unpleasant ones, right? It's like, oh, these noisy neighbors, how can I get rid of them? Your mind just goes off the feeling, right? And it starts to spin into aversion. I don't like these people. Could they please move away? Or I can't sleep, I can't sleep, I can't sleep. Oh my goodness, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And then, neutral feelings, and you just kind of space out, right? It's like, oh yeah, whatever, you're not really paying attention. So in the meditation on the mindfulness of feelings, right, first of all, bringing awareness to these different feelings, checking up on how we label them, right? Even just that process of labeling, like checking up, is this pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, worldly, spiritual? Then to start looking at how these feelings change. How do they arise? How do they pass away? you know, and to just look, is it like a permanent, constant feeling? Or is it also changing moment by moment, like our body is? And when you're sitting in meditation, it can become very interesting, right? You're just looking at, say, pain or how pain arises becomes like an interesting object, in our meditation with this meditation on feelings, because it's so gross. Yeah, you're sitting. After a while, for some reason, there's this sensation in the legs. At what point do you label this pain? Does it move around the leg? Is it always in the same place? At what point does the mind, when is it physical pain? When is it mental pain? At what point does it become, oh my God, I'm going to be crippled because of this pain, right? So that's just something to watch, how it progresses. When does it become, I've just got to move, I absolutely have to move, I have to stretch, we're done, I need to get up, right? So just to watch that. So that can be part of that, watching it arising and passing away. And here we then that leads us to start experiencing the feelings as impersonal. Are these really my feelings? Or is it just some kind of process that's ongoing, due to all these causes and conditions coming together? And I feel this becomes very helpful really when we're experiencing illness, or actual, chronic physical pain, right? If we identify so strongly with the pain, right? This is my pain. I'm going to be crippled. I'm never going to be able to get up. What's the effect of that, right? Versus watching and saying, okay, there's pain arising, right? And then the same applies to happy feelings, right? Instead of thinking, oh my goodness, I must be such a good person. They said these good things about me. And we watch, okay, there's a lot of pleasant feeling coming up, but it comes from 3 words. You are great. Okay. What next? Yeah. Or, just watching that. Yeah, how do I respond to that hit mentally? Like, oh, so much pleasure. And then it passes away. Who experienced that pleasure? And, can I keep it forever? Can I hang on to it? Whoever this I is? And then it becomes very interesting to start looking at, how we relate to all these pleasant, unpleasant, neutral feelings and how they drive our daily to day, moment to moment experience. Yeah. And I think that's linked to the exercise for the homework, right? Like Sharon described, if you wake up like, okay, unpleasant feeling, I have so much to do. All right. I've got to get rid of this unpleasant feeling. How I'm going to do it? I'm going to do stuff. I'm going to get stuff off my to-do list, right? Then that becomes your day. Yeah, like, okay, all right. Yeah. Or Louise O says, you wake up, pleasant feeling, compassion. Oh, today I have nothing on, so I have space to be compassionate. All right, I have an open heart. I'm happy to get up today. Or like Qian Hui said, I have a pleasant spiritual feeling. Wow, I have another day to live. I have another day to practice. Wow. How does that affect what I do next? Yeah. So those are all, ways we can do this meditation of mindfulness, of just how, whether we're experiencing pleasure or what we're considering unpleasant, how does that affect our response? And when they arise and pass away, how does that affect our mental and physical responses? And then we go on to also contemplating, our internal feelings, right? How are we experiencing them? How other people are experiencing feelings, right? And then you can do both, alternate between the two. And that can be, again, I think, a very powerful way to generate compassion, right? Because, you are having pleasant, unpleasant, neutral feelings, and you realize, hey, the same is going on for everybody around me. At every moment, all of us here, right? That is our human experience, right? So if you suddenly decide to drop out of this meditation group, I'm not going to sit here and cry and be like, I failed, one person left. Who knows? They had an unpleasant feeling. They need to go to the bathroom. Okay, whatever, right? Things are changing moment by moment for people. If someone gets very upset with you, you know what? They are having some unpleasant feelings, and that's how they're trying to deal with it. Maybe not very skillfully, but yeah, so for me anyway, it's just a reminder of like, yeah, we all have this common experience, just as the way we all have these bodies that are impermanent in age. This is our mental experience. Yeah, and also physical, tactile consciousness experience of pleasant, unpleasant, neutral feelings. And then to go deeper, then this is where we really get into the insight piece, where we start to contemplate the causes and results of our feelings. So we don't have much time to go into this. It's kind of a much more profound teaching. But in Buddhism, there's a teaching on what's called the 12 links of dependent origination. Right, so those of you who are familiar with that, it talks about the whole process of suffering and rebirth. Yeah. But the key point here is, feeling arises because there is contact with an object. Yeah, so that's something we can all understand, right? Contact with a tasty meal, right? It's amazing, like all this desire and all that comes up over food that we eat. If you think about it, where is it happening? It's just happening here. This is where the contact is happening. The length of the tongue, right? That's where all your taste buds are. You spend 3 hours cooking. You spend hundreds of dollars on this meal. The pleasure is here to here. That's it. You swallow it, and it's like getting processed by the rest of the body, right? The pleasure is here to here. Or like, how many seconds actually are you experiencing that pleasure for? $100 on this meal. Chew, 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 right? And it's gone. Yeah, so we can think about the causes in that way. It's contact between the object and the mind, right? I mean, the mental response to contact with this object. Yeah, pleasure, I want more, or displeasure, get it away from me. Yeah, and then as a result, so there's contact, there's feeling, and then that produces craving and clinging. Yeah. So the idea here is, if we're craving and clinging, then that can bring a lot of suffering. A lot of dukkha is what the word is used. A lot of unsatisfactoriness, because no matter how much of it you have, it's just never going to be enough. Yeah. Or you could crave getting rid of the thing, right? Like, oh, contact with the object brings this pleasure, so get it away from me. I never want to be around it. You shut up and never speak again. Right. So you can see, just from contact with the object, we have a pleasant, unpleasant, neutral feeling, and then our mental afflictions start to spin out. They start to arise. And so the theory here is that, these uncomfortable states of mind, whether it's, clinging for something or to get it or to push it away, that produces a very unsatisfactory experience. So that's what we're calling dukkha here. So just very briefly, these 3 types of feelings, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, they map onto the 3 types of dukkha. So the unpleasant feelings are what we call, the suffering of suffering, dukkha. Yeah, it's very gross. It's just unpleasant, right? Animals feel it too. Yeah, if you if you kick a cat, it's going to feel pain, right? So that's gross suffering. But we also call the second kind, pleasant feelings, the dukkha of change, right? Because these pleasant feelings don't last. So you have it temporarily, and then when it changes, boy, we really get upset, right? It's like, wait a second, this was supposed to last forever. How is it gone? And so if we're always clinging on to that pleasant feeling, it actually is a form of suffering or dukkha here, unsatisfactoriness. And then the third, the neutral feelings, they relate to what we call pervasive conditioned dukkha, the dukkha of pervasive conditioning. So this is just the constant dissatisfactoriness we experience just from having this body and mind that we don't have control over. Right? So just even sitting here, all of us are making subtle shifts to make our body comfortable, right? All the time, you just never find. Yeah, this is the one where we say you're never going to find the perfect meditation cushion. Okay, so stop buying them now, right? Because that's just the nature of our experience, yeah? Oh, is it too fat? Is it too thin? Is it hard, soft? The body is just unsatisfactory. And we're just always, just not going to be comfortable. You sit for too long, you need to stand. You stand for too long, you need to sit. Yeah, so that's the nature of these neutral feelings. They are changing moment by moment, and they're going to become unpleasant at some point. Yeah. So that's another way to reflect on this mindfulness of feelings. Yeah, and then we can also look at our past, present, and future feelings. And as I mentioned before, how they produce craving and clinging. So very briefly, this is just how we would go about doing a meditation on mindfulness of feelings, not on all these points at one time. Very often in a retreat situation, I've just, you just sit the whole session. We would visualize the Buddha, do refuge bodhicitta, some recitations to move the mind in a direction, set a motivation, calm the mind, and then we might just contemplate one topic. And here, just checking, what am I experiencing now, and is it pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral? And just checking for that whole session, what am I labeling pleasant, unpleasant, neutral? And then also checking what am I labeling worldly or spiritual, what's the cause of these feelings, and then observing their nature. So we can do that next week when there's more time. So I just wanted to pause here before we dedicate, just to see if any questions or comments have come up for people around this. No? Crystal clear? Okay. Just in closing, I want to add, so one aspect that's very powerful about this meditation on mindfulness of feelings is that it really helps us to, personally, I think it helps us to reduce our suffering, right? Because you can start to cut that link of feeling, generating, craving, and clinging. Yeah, so let's check up next week if that's true, So first you pay attention, there's contact, okay, and then there's pleasant feeling or unpleasant or neutral, and you learn just to watch it arise and pass away, right? You don't have to react with craving or clinging immediately, right? As you sit, right? The idea here is, you start to create some space. Yeah. The pleasant feeling doesn't have to immediately become, I want more, right? It doesn't have to immediately become, I don't want this. But there's some space there. And that's one way to begin to move toward liberation. We're not controlled by our pleasant, unpleasant, neutral feelings and reacting to them repeatedly. Yeah. Again, that's the theory piece. So you got to check that out. Does paying attention to this, you're like, this arises and passes away. So I have some space about how I want to respond. Do I need to push it away? Do I need to crave more of it? Or can I actually respond with more wisdom and compassion, with a bigger view in mind? Okay, there is a question. Is keeping the body healthy by exercising and eating considered attachment to the body? A healthy body can facilitate practice as well. So absolutely, we want to remain healthy. So when we talk about attachment here, I don't know if we went into, probably not yet. Yeah, so but the technical definition of attachment, especially from a Buddhist perspective, is that it's not the same as what we talk about in psychological attachment, okay, like the child and the mother needing to have a healthy sense of bonding. Here we're talking about attachment as a disturbing mental state, as in it disturbs your peace. And it's also not realistic. So here attachment is exaggerating the good qualities of something or projecting them where there aren't even any good qualities. And then because of that exaggeration, pleasant feelings arise when there's contact with that object and you want more of it. You cling to it. I don't want to be separated from it. Okay, so attachment to the body would be like thinking it's never going to change, for example, or it's always going to be beautiful. Or, because I have my hair this way, I'm special. Yeah, so that would be attachment. These are unrealistic views, right? Or looking at someone and thinking, they're always going to look this way, they're never going to change. Just the wrong views we have when this exaggerated view is there. Yeah. Or for me, when I was younger, like if you think if I exercise, more people will like me, right? I'm just going to be more attractive, and it's true, right? That's how the world works. Yeah, that is then there's attachment to the body, right? My whole value is based on how I look. If I go to the gym every day and I look a certain way, I'm going to be more successful. Yeah, so that would be an attachment to the body. Versus thinking, I do have to do certain things to keep this healthy. Yeah, if I sit in one position all day, this body's not going to function very well. So I'm going to go exercise. I do this with a good motivation. I keep my body healthy. I keep it clean. I want to use it to practice. It benefits other people, right? When I'm healthy, people don't have to take care of me, right? I'm able to do things not just to take care of myself, but to contribute to society. Yeah, so you see, that's a very different way of relating to the body. Yeah. Versus, attachment, my goodness, it makes us do so many crazy things. I've got to get a facelift. I've got to go for liposuction. I mean, that's attachment. You're trying to make the body what it simply is not and cannot become. And that's very, very tragic, I think, when, we put ourselves through so much pain because of a wrong view in relating to, this, what we have here. Yeah. Okay. So if no other questions, okay, one more. For mindfulness of feelings, I know that I'm angry, but how do I deal with it? That is a huge topic, but here, anger is not a feeling. So that's very interesting here, yeah? We're going to get to this later. In this framework of the 4 establishments of mindfulness, we'll say anger is a mental phenomenon. We're going to put it under phenomena, the last category, these mental states that arise. So when anger arises, if you're focused on mindfulness of feelings, then you're checking, when there's anger in my mind, is it pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral? What do you think? Is it pleasant? Is it pleasant? Yeah, I see people shaking their heads, right? Often the mind's very agitated. It's like, right? They did me wrong, or it shouldn't be this way. It's very uncomfortable. So you can notice, whoa, unpleasant feeling. Mind very, very angry right now, unpleasant feeling. So how do you deal with it, right? First of all, even recognizing there's anger and it's unpleasant is a powerful recognition of the disadvantages of anger. Really, that's the first step. That even gets us to this point of even your question, Yisin, I want to deal with it, right? Most of the time when I'm very angry, I don't think this. I think I'm right. The world is wrong. I am right. And I gotta go tell you that I'm right. I need to fix this problem now. Yeah, I don't even know I'm angry. I don't think it's unpleasant. It's very empowering right now that I'm mad. It gives me courage to speak up. Okay, so for me, the first step is like, okay, there's some very unpleasant feeling in the mind, and it's not a realistic perception. Yeah. So how do I deal with it? There are whole books about this. Venerable Chodron has written Working with Anger. His Holiness the Dalai Lama has a book called Healing Anger. So, that's a much broader topic. But I think the first step, just recognition, and then just recognizing what are the disadvantages of anger, and do I want to follow that? And we don't do this when we're actually angry. Okay, it's something you've got to think about beforehand. Yeah, so in the moment when you're extremely angry, there are many methods you can apply to just calm your mind in that moment. So see if mindfulness of feelings helps. You're like, okay, there's unpleasant feeling and there's anger. How do I, let go of this? Yeah, is it because of contact with a particular object? Do I need to be away from this object right now? You can ask, who is angry? Right? Where is that anger? That's a way of using the wisdom meditation. Where is that anger? Is that anger in your kidney? Is that anger in your liver? Who's angry? Yeah, who is angry? So sometimes reflecting like that can help. Yeah. So there are lots and lots of methods though to work with anger, and that's like the subject of a whole other course. But we can come to that with the mindfulness of phenomena later on. But for a start, just observe the mental feeling that comes about. Yeah, when you're angry, is it pleasant, unpleasant, neutral? Is it a worldly or spiritual feeling? And see what that helps you to learn about this state you're calling anger. Sorry, Sharon. Yes, you can share a thought. Of course you can.
Right, Venerable. So, last week when I mentioned about having a pleasant feeling, so you mentioned about think about it. Does this lead to a good outcome? Is it realistic? is it real? Are you looking at it correctly? And for the past week, those words became like a policeman that popped up throughout the day. So it was really funny. It became like, when there are certain things they're doing, it's like, does this lead to good outcome? Yes, it's like this little policeman that will come out. Does it lead to good outcome? Yeah. Are you looking at it correctly? So yeah, so throughout this week, so for example, at the start of the week, when I receive a message from someone which for me I'll be so happy and so excited, and everything is pink and beautiful. By the end of the week, the excitement actually died down quite a lot. It's like going back to base. I was like, wow, how come these few words that pops up through the week, I can see the change from Monday until Sunday. There was a difference. There wasn't so much of the excitement anymore. Yeah, you're happy to receive the message, but there isn't that, wow, you put down the phone, then you're all smiles and clouds are all pink and everything already. Yeah. So I thought that was amazing. Sometimes like a few words can have such a powerful impact. So thank you very much for that word of, does it give a good outcome?
Yeah, and whatever you're defining as a good or not, right? The outcome. But I just want to caution, in our practice, our wisdom mind, or words of wisdom don't have to be a policeman or police person, like you're doing something bad or good, right? So that's another helpful piece in your own practice. It's like when we're vigilant, but it's always with a sense of kindness, I think. It's not like, bad Sharon, you shouldn't be excited. It's more like, it's wise Sharon. It's like, really? If I'm so attached to this person's messages, if they stop messaging me, is my life going to be ruined, right? Yeah, so more like a kind friend. I think you can think of it as a kind friend, just being like, hey, yeah, is this going to be good for all of us? I don't know. Check up. However you want to phrase it. I just say that because I can get very hard with myself. Like the policeman is there. Thubten Damcho, what are you doing? It's like, oh, okay. It's like, I don't want to practice like that. Yeah, I want to have a kind inner voice that's like, hey ho, do you really want to be doing this right now? Yeah, like that.
Yeah,
So
friendly reminder.
yeah. So make sure you relate to yourself with kindness as well as you go about your
Okay.
day.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Okay, so we've used our time. Thank you all so much for being here on this Mother's Day.